Hello there. So, today I had someone really go off the deep end with me. He got so mad that someone preferred Man of Steel to The Batman, both origin stories. I think they're different enough and about different enough characters. Kind of hard to compare. Again, just someone kind of farming the Twitter interaction. That's why they've got the blue check mark. I don't really agree with it, but I understand why they do it. And to be fair, it could just be their personal opinion. And this person saw that, got so mad, that he started telling a bunch of people who like Zack Snyder and the DC fandom to kill themselves. He was very explicit about it. He was very descriptive about it, and he did it a lot. And I looked at his account, and he's been doing it for a long time. And so I just wanted to go in and real quick debunk something he said, as well as maybe take a small break and look and see just how insane this behavior is. Because when people talk about a toxic fandom, this is kind of the definition of it. It's very fandom minute. Let's just get into what he was saying. So what happened here? Someone said, can we agree Man of Steel better than Batman, The Batman? Not to be confused with the animated The Batman, which I prefer over both. He says, kill Snyder fans, burn down their fucking ugly-ass basement-dwelling houses. I fucking hate them like a plague. Someone said, oh, honey, no deal. And, they went on and they then responded by saying that they should kill themselves. The person who was playfully replying back said, no, I actually enjoy my life. Maybe someday you can do the same. And he goes off and he says, I'll enjoy life when Snyder fucks shut the fuck up with their cultural appropriation. Liking superhero movies isn't a culture. Zack Snyder did Superman like he would do evil Jesus Christ. What? But that shit is blasphemous and tainted the good image of an otherwise beloved character for over 80 years. Okay, so the way he worded that, it sounds like he's saying it tainted Superman for 80 years, and Zack Snyder didn't make Man of Steel 80 years ago. Being a selfless guy who takes care of people and reports the news isn't Jesus imagery. But if we want to talk about Jesus imagery, I could again refer you to the episode of Debunked where I talk about the Jesus imagery that James Gunn is so obsessed with right now. When someone said, hey, not cultural appropriation, because it isn't a culture, it's just liking comic books is not culture. He says, when it comes to levels of shit, Zach, I want Batman raped in prison, Snyder does, then yeah, it is. Stealing from the original artists and writers' characters, completely butchering everything of them to offer pale reflection without a second thought on how the artist feels. And then, of course, he's got a bunch of other tweets saying stuff like, kill Zack Snyder in all caps. Someone said, did anything in particular make you want to say this? And yeah, I saw Zack Snyder fans being super duper weirder than usual, meaning people were saying they prefer one movie over another. And he said, and this person says, oh, that makes sense. That's a totally normal response. You can just say you want people to die because you don't like their fans. But what are we debunking here, right? Well, it's the thing he said about the prison thing specifically. So back when Watchmen was about to come out, a reporter asked Zack Snyder, hey, is this movie going to be as dark as Christopher Nolan's movie? And kind of made some disparaging comments about the Dark Knight setting, Batman Begins and so on. And Zack said, no, you don't understand. The Batman stuff that Chris Nolan does, because they were friends at this point, is really cool, and it's a power fantasy, and it's fun. And it's kind of like, you get popcorn and you enjoy it. What Alan Moore writes is actually like really dark. And he brought up the fact that there's sexual assault in that, and that it isn't a power fantasy, that bad things happen to people in Alan Moore comics. Even good people have bad things happen to them. And he used that as a way to try and describe the fact that Alan Moore writes really dark things. And people have now tried to act like it's really offensive for Zack to have said that. And mind you, he wasn't saying he wants this to happen to Batman. He certainly wasn't saying it in regards to the DCEU. And people will try to tell you that it was edgy or crass or wrong for Zack to make this analogy. And that's your personal preference, whatever. But he certainly wasn't saying that he wants that to happen to a Batman that he writes. And he never was talking about Ben Affleck, because the idea of Ben Affleck being Batman wouldn't be floated until like 2014-ish when he was cast. And I also think it's funny that people will try to say that Zack Snyder's edgy for making this one comment. And admittedly, an analogy I wouldn't have made, but I get where he was coming from, because he had just been living in the world of Alan Moore for however long pre-production to post-production took on Watchmen. And he was defending a movie franchise he enjoys from being disparaged. But James Gunn thinks that rape is romantic, and had a blog about all of the DC characters he wants to sexually assault. And I'm not even going to get into the fact that he threw a rapist-themed party with a convicted rapist where a girl was allegedly abused who had allegedly been groomed since she was 14. Now, those are federal court documents in the Jimmy Uringer case. I find all of that far more offensive, even without that court case, than Zack saying, no, Watchmen is darker because Alan Moore writes very dark things. I also think it's offensive that people think that a movie preference that they don't agree with, mind you, if it was a movie preference they agreed with, they would be all for it, means you can say that you want someone to die, and you can tell people to commit suicide, and you can say that you want to murder people and burn their houses. Because in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if you model your account's entire theme after a superhero, a selfless character, and this is the way you behave, you're not really a fan of that character because nothing about that character's ethos or pathos has been imparted onto you. They're just someone you like watching punch people. They're an escape for you because your life is miserable and you're a miserable person. So, Debunked. Zack didn't say he wanted Batman to be sexually assaulted in a prison. He was commenting on how dark Alan Moore's comics are. Anyway, enjoy the new Superman movie by James Gunn. I'm sure it'll be everything you guys want and deserve.